Hopefully, I can get into the comments. There it is. All right. We have two people in here. Hi, Ikale. Welcome. Let's put that on live chat. Hi, Simon. How are you? Hi, Emily. Hi, Spirit Moon. Welcome, everybody. A few minutes for folks to filter on in. Good morning, Jennifer Bieber. Welcome. Moon Tiger's Path. Welcome. Janice, welcome. Awesome. We've got a few people in here. Good morning, everybody. So I'm covering a topic that's been kind of on my mind lately. I've always wanted to dive into it, and oh, hi, Gypsy. Hello, welcome. When it comes to spirituality, I view my spirituality or religion as a path that I travel down. It started being baptized Catholic, and oh, hello, Family Wizard. How are you? And it started as, in Catholicism. I've explored, being atheist because, well, let's start at the beginning before we kick off this discussion, so I don't squirrel. I was born and raised Catholic, but at a fairly young age, around 19, I came out as gay, LGBT, and my parents were very, very accepting, so it was, I was blessed with a good support structure, especially my mom, may she rest in peace. But I struggled with religion. If I had a dime for every time I heard Leviticus 18:22, I'd be making videos in a friggin' TV studio, like, instead of on a YouTube. I'd be a billionaire, and it's been a struggle for me. I left Catholicism, turned my back on God of any form whatsoever, and then I met a witch friend of mine, and it was a coworker, and I got into witchcraft. I also looked at Buddhism for a short period of time, and I got into paganism. Went back to like a more progressive Christian, which was LGBT accepting. And, it's just been a journey. And it is where I've gotten to today, which is, I call myself neo-Christian pagan. Though I've been getting a very strong pull towards the paganism side, especially drawn to the 12 Olympians in the Greek-Roman pantheon. But I still keep my ties to my Christian roots. So that's what I've evolved with to, and it's working. It's an ever-evolving thing, and I hope everyone has their cuppa, because I also, in my travels and now in this community, I've stumbled across someone who has fairly similar beliefs and is on a journey of his own. And we, in talking, it's like we have very similar belief structure. So anyways, without further ado, for the second time on this channel, it's my good friend, Hexen. Say hi, Hexen.
Hey, everybody. How are you guys?
So, Hexen, tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey. I mean, I just gave a quick synopsis. Of like my spiritual journey, how I got to where I am today. And And I know we've talked a little bit, and we're going to dive deep into some of this stuff. But give us the high level of your spiritual journey and your beliefs.
Okay, so I want to point something out before we start. On my screen it says off air. Why?
Not sure, but we are on air. Because see, you can see me. You can see you.
Oh, I can see me.
You can see you.
Oh my God, that's creepy.
And I think it's just because it's broadcasting from my Hangouts.
Through another, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I always pull up a phone so I can monitor what's going on. Plus, I can see the chat.
You know, I'm not that techy, so I'm a little bit of slow when it comes to like technology and stuff. Like it has to be simplified for me. So, hello everybody. So my journey, wow. I believe like the way I like to think about it is that I was raised Catholic since I was a child. I I like to think about it that I've been doing spells and magic ever since I could remember. I mean, I was obsessed with images of different saints, and I wanted to know why there were so many and what does each stand for, because I knew there was a meaning behind the symbolism. And as a child, you're very curious, so I would ask my grandfather a lot. Um, well, Grandpa, why is this person a saint, and why? What is that saint for? And then I discovered novena candles, and I was like, well, why do all these different saints get a candle with their picture on it, and why this color and that color, and I was very curious. I used to also use the rosary as a prayer bead type thing, where I would pray over the rosary with the Virgin Mary, which is energy I've always worked with. And as a kid also, I remember looking at Mary alone. There's so many different Virgin Marys that have so-called appeared to different people, and in so many artwork they display her in different skin colors. They display her with different outfits and different symbolism, and it's one Virgin Mary, but she has so many faces. So as me growing up, I started noticing, one of her symbols is also the moon, where a lot of statues of Virgin Mary, she has her feet resting on the moon and things like that. So, I put two and two together, and I started seeing Mary more as a mother, like as a goddess figure, not just like a holy mother. She's a holy mother, but I see her more as like a cosmic, universal mother. Where
Mm-hmm.
so I see.
Almost like the pagans see the goddess, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to me, she's a version of the goddess. I believe
Version,
so.
yeah, a version of the goddess. Yes, I feel the same way.
Symbolism a lot of the times have to do with the goddess and the moon and the maiden aspect of the goddess. The maiden aspect of the goddess. So and I've been working with her since then. And I also work with Jesus, and and stuff like that. And that's when I started merging my Christianity with my witchcraft. But when I was little, like it was I was so interested in it because to me it was all magical. Like the point of praying for a saint or asking them for their help and lighting them a 9-day candle, a jar, one of those jar candles and stuff. Like, what do you think prayer is? To me, I find prayer almost like an intention.
It's kind of like these candles.
Yes.
I get these at a botanica shop near me.
It's like, to me, what do you call a prayer? To me, a prayer is an intention that you're putting out to the universe, and you're asking God for help, And you sometimes you light a candle, sometimes you add a little incense. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But
Yeah.
to me, that's to me a prayer is almost like a spell because
Yes.
it works. You're putting that intention out there. You're saying
Hmm.
it either aloud or in your head. You're communicating to that spirit above us and letting it out to the universe. So to me, it's like a spell.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
All in its own, to me, it's also magic. And you having the type of faith where you honor this saint or Mary or Jesus, and you light them this candle as an offering, and somehow it makes you feel better, and you have that hope where, oh, maybe my prayers are going to be answered, whatever it is you're praying for.
Yeah.
So in a way, I see that as magical. And I
Yeah.
understand that since I was a very very young, and so that's where my path started. I started honoring Mary and getting her candles, and um my mom knew I was very like witchy ever since I was young, so she showed me fire safety and everything, but I was allowed to have candles around and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah. Now, and I know I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it. Do you, for the audience, do you honor any other um, non-Christian gods? So, like I pray to Jesus, I pray to Mary, I pray to Saint Michael, I pray to God. Um, but I also pray to Aphrodite, Apollo, Ares, Artemis, Athena, you know, um, all of those, because that's my Roman pantheon on the pagan side. Like I'm actually working a lot. I'm going to start working a lot now with Apollo because um, for me, summer's coming, and I am hoping for a warm, hot, sunny summer. And we know Apollo's the god of the sun, right? In the it was said like in ancient texts, or the sun is Apollo driving his chariot across the sky. I think I heard that in school or something like that, way in my past. But are you working with other deities? Am I saying that right? Deities right now?
Oh yes, I mean, I've been working with Yemaya. I want to say about 8 or 9 years already.
Now explain to me, who's Yemaya?
So Yemaya is an African goddess
Mm-hmm.
of the ocean. Um, in Santeria, this is a long topic, so I'm just gonna touch it up very shortly
Oh yeah, short
because
answer.
this particular subject of the slave trade in the Caribbean is a long topic. But during the slave trade that took place in the Caribbean, the Africans merged with the Native Americans, that with the not Native Americans, with the natives of the Caribbean. Um, and so they merged their faith, their religions, and everything. And so being enslaved, both races, the natives and the Africans,
Yeah,
they
actually, hold on one second. Because I'm looking in the chat. Um, yes, Janice McKay. I'm going to touch in on that because that's so there's like a conversation going on in the chat about, because she had said something to an effect. I don't want to go back, but yes, the Bible thumpers. So I'm going to get into the whole man-made part of the religion of Christianity and what Christianity really is if you actually look at Jesus as a person. We'll get into that because yes, the Bible thumpers love to pick the pieces of the Bible that suit their need and ignore the rest. But we're going to get to that. Sorry about that. So go ahead, Hex, and you can finish up.
That's okay. That's okay. I have something to add to that as well. So so yes, with the slave trade that took place, they had to mask their gods with the Christian religion because their owners or the people that enslaved them forced them to practice Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So Yemaya has her own association with one of the versions of the Virgin Mary. And so there's two images of Yemaya you can find. Her African, like when you look for statues, it's usually either the Santeria, African version of her, or you also have a Virgin Mary statue that is associated with Yemaya,
Yes.
or the spirit of Yemaya,
Mm-hmm.
because of that slave trade that happened in the Caribbean. Now, the one I have her in her goddess form. Um,
Yeah.
and to me, I consider her associated with the Virgin Mary as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the association I've made ever since I was a kid, because my ancestry goes back to like the Caribbean slave trade and stuff like that. So and it's the same way as I see all goddesses as one, and all gods being one. Like, we are all having a different spiritual experience, including
Mm-hmm.
other religions, and I feel that we're all searching for the same thing.
Well, yeah,
The
it's
It's the
like the
universal
like,
energy. We
yeah, it's
just
like the journey.
Yes, and we put a face on it,
Mm-hmm.
a different face on it every single time. But we're the supreme being is a supreme being,
Mm-hmm.
male, female, ever changing, everlasting, never dying. That's the way I see it. It's like, I was talking to someone yesterday at the Botanica close to me, and I was talking to him, the guy that works there, the clerk. um the way we were talking, because I heard him talk to a lady, and she was having issues, and she came in for help and advice. And us three were talking about everything that's going on right now. and
Yeah.
and the way he put it, like, as is, there's so many things going on in the world right now, and in the news, and in this country and other countries and stuff. But in reality, it's all spiritualism, in the sense that maybe that's what we should be focusing on: our spiritualism, our spirituality, searching to be better people, putting
Yeah.
good energy out there so that everything can flow and go good for us. And so we were talking about ascension, and you know there's going to be certain people, or certain of us, that are spiritual and are searching for that spirituality, where we're going to be a little bit more lifted, and we're going to be more aware of the things
Sure.
going on.
Sure. Like I was saying, and I've said this multiple times. Part of my faith is a blend of reincarnation and ascension to heaven, and I believe that our souls will be reincarnated, and as they pass through life after life after life, that soul becomes enlightened to the point where it can reside in heaven with the gods. That's kind of
Yes.
what I believe. And I just want to point out, if anyone has questions, type them in all caps so they stand out. Because the it's tough to go through the the comments. But yeah, and you mentioned, and I've had and I had some conversations with Maddie. I remember him telling me about voodoo, which I believe Santeria is kind of closely tied with that. In that the slaves, yes, they took the voodoo gods, and they basically masked them with Christian saints just to keep in hiding their spirituality, which is quite fascinating. And another thing to point out is the fact, and I've had these conversations. So one of the main reasons I can keep one leg in Christianity is because I stumbled upon a church, Beneficent Congregational. It's in downtown Providence, and it's a member of the United Church of Christ, and they're very progressive, and they have this saying that resonates with me, and I believe this for all of the gods that I worship, gods and goddesses, is that God, they have a slogan called God is still speaking. When you look at a lot of Christian churches, and Bible thumpers, they talk about God as something that's written in the Bible. It's there, it's in stone, and there's no changing of it. That to me tells me that God is dead. And if God is dead, what's the point? Right? If God can't shape the world, if God can't influence us and have us learn and have us enlighten, then there's no point. So I grasp onto that God is still speaking, because I believe all of the gods, speak to us in various points of life, points of time. And, it's like I believe now at this day and age, even with like this Leviticus passage, because I forgot who had mentioned. Let me scroll back in the it was, I wanted to address this. Sorry. Well, anyways, I forgot who posted it, but yeah, how some of the Bible thumpers pick and choose different pieces. Well, these thumpers may pick out Leviticus 18:22 to thump us LGBT people over the head, but what about Leviticus 11:9-12 or 19:19, where if you eat shellfish, it's an abomination. If you wear blended fabrics, if you plant different crops in the same field, it's an abomination. All of this stuff is an abomination. When I look at that, I think to myself, and I've had this conversation with a pastor, and we have a working theory, right? And the problem is the interpretation of the Bible. And my pastor says, my ex-pastor, they moved on to another church, but I asked this question when I was really focusing on Christianity. When I first started going to this church, I'm like, why am I praying here if God hates me? And, we looked at the Bible, and he said to me, like she said to me, take the word abomination and just change it with uncommon. It kind of gives it a little less bite, and it isn't so bad. Like if I say to you, when I'm walking around at the mall, it's uncommon to see two guys holding hands. It happens sometimes, but it's not that common here. It doesn't condemn it. It just says it's not common. It's not common to see blended fabrics. It's not common. People around here don't eat much shellfish, right? It kind of tweaks the conversation. And this is the part where I get a little bit pushed off from Christianity, because it's the man-made part. It is what men have done. And I say men as in humankind.
Yes.
Because you know what? We aren't the best beings. We have an incredible capacity to be intolerant, an incredible capacity to hate.
Yes.
And as you had said when we were talking last night, wars have been fought over religion. And you think about that. Something that has been created, whether it's paganism or Judaism or Christianity, all of these religions have been created or exist to uplift us. And here we are killing over them. There's a problem with that. So with the parts of Christianity that I still look into, it's, I take the Bible and everything that was written by a man outside of Jesus and Moses really is just not that important to me. Because, even in those days, man has agenda, and those writings were for a purpose. So that's kind of how, and I was compelled to do some sort of live like this. I was reading the news, and I forgot the guy's name, but like there's this rugby player in Australia who evidently, he just went on, he's a very homophobic individual, and went on some sort of homophobic tirade of something on social media. And I actually think, that he's kind of, I think he was thrown off the team because it was, um, an all-inclusive sport, whatever, rugby in Australia. But it's kind of I'm still taken aback that this level of intolerance and hate still exists in this world today, right? You would think that we're enlightened, but it brings me back to how I view my spirituality, and that some souls are more enlightened than others. Um, this individual, probably his soul probably needs to go through a few more lifetimes to get to the point where, say, you and I are at, because all souls are at a different level. Um, and it's kind of sad because it does affect the rest of us. Um, but anyways, yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like how all this, and just to address that, people picking and choosing um, different passages and texts to use as a weapon. And I've had people like that come at me, and I keep a little um, mental note when people start on their Leviticus trip, and I'm like, well, do you eat shellfish? Let's check the. I'll tell you a story. It was a few years ago, and I was at a Pride event in Providence, and the Woodsboro Baptist Church decided to send a delegate up to protest Rhode Island Pride. And needless to say, they didn't last long. But I walked up to them and said, "Hey, can I see the label on your shirt?" And the lady was like, well, why? What does that have to do? Because if you're going to sit here and talk about Leviticus, and that label says blend, your credibility doesn't exist. Oh, by the way, do you eat shrimp? Yeah. And it took just that to just zipper her mouth closed. And, other people were in there and they packed up and left. But it's like, it's so hypocritical. And that is one thing that kind of I don't really I don't really dig. But like hypocrisy, it's just, yeah, I just, it's what ruins all kinds of spirituality. So I'm going to go to the comments. I don't know if I don't know if anyone has any questions. Let's take a quick look. But I actually I'll look at those in a minute. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that? Like, what's so like, how do you approach your Christian side?
I believe that the Bible has been influenced by human hands for a very long time. From different queens to different kings at the times, they've rewritten the Bible to whatever they believe, for whatever they feel like believing, to try and control their people and the population.
Yes, it's not like Gypsy Lee put a comment in it. It's like the dang telephone game. It all gets mixed up when each person puts a spin on it.
And then by the time the last person is something totally different than what the first person ever said.
Yes.
So so many horrific events and wars have taken place in the name of God or for God by Christians, like Christian wars, and throughout history completely, the most horrible things have been done in his name. Now, out of all the gods, I believe that he is the more compassionate. He is not a hating God or a destructive God. He can be when angered, but he's more of a compassionate of a humane being, and that's the kind of level we want to reach. Our soul wants to reach, to be able to move on to that other side. Now, the way back to the conversation that I was having in the Botanica yesterday.
Yep.
The way the guy was describing that, because we even touched on that as well, was, think of it as universal energy. We are made out of energy. We
Mhm.
are energy. When we die, we become energy and we go back to what he called the fountain of life. And he described it as a fountain of light where all these orbs are just flowing through like water. And some of these get a human life. They're living, or they live. Some of them die, come back and get recycled, and some of them are not pure enough to the point that they get put to another side or
Now,
punished,
now
or
these now these are souls.
souls,
Yes,
souls,
yes.
like a fountain of souls.
Well, there's a term, well of souls. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've ever heard it. It's the well of souls.
yeah.
Oh, I
So,
believe in that as well.
and the way he described it is it's this fountain of life and of spirit and energy, and it's like
Yeah.
a cosmic fountain where it's out in the universe, and it's bringing life and taking away life and bringing you back, and things like that. So, and that's one thing I've always believed. I believe that, you know as souls, certain dreams, or what we call deja vu, or memories of a place we've been to that we know we haven't been to in this life, but for some reason we have a memory of, damn, I've been here before.
Yes.
So feel I feel in reincarnation, and I believe that some souls do get recycled.
Mhm.
Other souls have been so good that they're completely become elevated just after that
Yeah.
one
Yeah. They're
experience.
ready to ascend.
And I also believe that there are souls that have been so evil, and inhumane, that right after, they're not given that opportunity anymore. They get like locked away somewhere where they don't become part of it anymore. They just become part of the void, or of the darkness. So that's the
Yeah.
way I see it.
It's kind of like
I
the true hell.
Yes, yeah.
Which actually I have a few questions. So somewhere in time Tower says, oh, wait a minute, no, wait a minute, I gotta go back. So Family Wizard says, Dave, do you believe in hell? Um, I believe hell is within us. I believe that if we are so bad that when we die, um, our soul isn't reincarnated. What happens is, again, yeah, it goes to a void or purgatory, if you would, to
Purgatory.
reflect,
Yeah.
on the things that it has done, and it's um, forced to face that guilt. That is the hell. Um, I do believe that there's a cleansing period, so I don't believe that hell as that state of mind is permanent. I just believe that soul now just starts back at the beginning and gets a renewed chance to go through its cycle of lives to be um uh reincarnated and
Like a test, like where they give them a certain amount of time where they're tested to see if, given the
yeah,
opportunity, they can fix themselves and be able to have that human compassion that we're supposed to have for one another. Because to me, there's so many different, excuse me, so many different things that can elevate your spirit and make you become ascended. It's not just one particular trait. I feel like there's different traits or virtues that you have to reach to, or different levels to get to that one level that's going to get you ascended. So the
yeah,
way I see it is that, sometimes they're gonna recycle souls, because some souls, when they come back or return, they're not at that level yet, but they're making progress. So I feel it's like a progress chart that they're taking of you, and things like that. It's a very big subject, and
yeah.
I mean, it's very, very vast subject, that of reincarnation. But
Hmm.
I believe in it. Um, Another thing I wanted to add about the Bible, it's funny because certain parts of the Bible have been rewritten to what people in power think, oh, well, I'm gonna add this in to control this type of people and things like that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
So
well,
I
well,
feel,
if you look at some of the passages, they are very purposeful. Um, it is it does have this undertone of um politicalness in there, and
yeah.
I've heard that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that from a pastor as well. It's like you've got to take it from the context as well. And Silver Willow says, I say cherry picking because they have one book that they say is the handbook for living. And when you mention a law from the Old Testament, they say, oh, we don't go by it. And that's true. It's true. Like, I challenge any Christian, like pure Bible thumping Christian, like, have you actually sat down and read that book from cover to cover? 90% have not. They go to a church, they listen to some minded, some set minded preacher telling them this is the law without doing any work for themselves. This is what really drew me to the pagan side of things, because that's not how the pagans worship. I like the home worship and the research and the looking into um, the gods and their purposes, and the different times of year, the wheel of the year. And this is where the paganism comes in. um, and I'll tell you what, a long time of my witchy practice, I really separated the spiritual and the religious. In recent, this past year, when I really started looking at the spiritual side of it, and again, more towards the Greek and Roman pantheon, you know, um, it's really spoken to me. um how, and it's kind of like like we were talking about last night. There's like this big room or council or dinner table. Now you might have the true god, the god and maybe goddess at the ends of the table. Those are the ones that are at the top of the hierarchy, if you would. um or or what's called god goddess. And then alongside of those, for those two are the other gods from all nations. Like you'll find Aphrodite, Apollo, Ares, um Hermes, um Zeus, Poseidon, and all in, and even the African guy Yamaya, and all of those, because I think they all are from the same plane, if you would, are the same in their existence. I mean, I know they're all
Yeah.
around us, but, as as a I believe is the Greek. Well, I think the Greeks or whatever thought like up on Mount Olympus, right? We can't go up there, but that's where they live, up in this Mount Olympus, not eucalyptus. But you know what I'm saying? And this is how it all ties together. Um, and I truly believe that the gods, their intent was for this all to be blended together, to give us a message of inclusion, live the good life, be kind to one another, and love. And that's the
And
basic.
I want to add something to that.
Sure.
Tolerance.
Tolerance. Oh,
Tolerance
absolutely.
for one another,
Mm-hmm.
respect for each other's beliefs,
Yes.
tolerance towards people who are different, people
Yeah.
who have diseases, people who are have a different skin color, people who practice a different religion,
Sure.
people with disabilities. I mean, they were
Oh, look.
met. We were, and I think that's where we're behind as
Oh, yeah.
human beings.
Here's,
That's where the flaw is,
here's
to
one
where we
example.
don't. We're
Here's
so hateful sometimes.
oh, I know. Here's one example. Jesus, Jesus in the Catholic Church. portrayed as a white, bushy hair, clean shave. Oh no, he's got a beard, but that's not what Jesus looked like. Jesus was Jewish. He was from the Middle East. He was a dark-skinned individual. That in his worldly form, he is a dark-skinned individual. So, like, how can a religion sit there and take the Bible and preach this is the way it was, and change something as basic as Jesus's appearance? You know, see, there's problems with it, and it's not, and I want to be careful. I'm not attacking the esoteric side of it, the spiritual side of it. This is just the man corrupting side.
Yeah.
You know? So now, Hexen, do you believe? I'm going to put the question, because I spoke about hell, and like, because I really don't believe in hell as a place. What do you believe in hell?
I believe that in like a purgatory type thing, or how can I say, a temporary jail that you, a prison, a temporary prison that you go to. Like that where you reflect on if you've been so evil in life, you get to meet that shadow self face to face, you know, and you have this time of reflection where you're there, where you have to reflect on everything you did, all the people you harmed, you know, and then according to that, depending on how you do there, then you kind of like fail. Instead of getting A, B, or a C, you get an F. And then you have to start again. Kind of like when we're going through school, and if you don't do good and you get an F, well, then you fail and you have to go to that same grade all over again.
It's funny you say that, because that's like the view of my reincarnation. I believe it's like, and I've said this in the past, and people look at me like I'm weird, but life is like soul school.
Yeah,
we go first grade, and this is how we ascend and become enlightened, and we kind of move on. I want to comment from I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but so Amethyst Ascension says, listen, the whole issue I have is that I see all this bashing of a whole religion no different than what you are saying they do to us. I believe it's more about finding what brings us together. Exactly. And this is kind of what I'm kind of speaking to, is that the human capacity to be intolerant is so strong. You know, we need to get back by that. You know, we need to find that commonality, because I firmly believe that whichever path we take to get there, we're all going to be reunited. When we ascend to heaven, we're all going to be reunited up there. And of course, now at that point, religion isn't really going to matter, because we will meet and we will be sat by the gods, and we will know them. We will be in that plane. So, you know, we might say, oh, hey, look at that. You were right. It is right. This is, you know, it's like, we will find out one way or another what, you know, whether we're right or wrong, or, you know, maybe we're all right. You know, there's just different paths to get there. Is there, just want to put out there, is there, if anyone has any questions for Hexen or myself, post them in there in all caps, so they they stand out. Simon from Hermit's Cave says, exactly, there is no religion. That is I like, most people would be saying, no religion. Oh, I'm not atheist. No, I agree with that statement, in that being, there really isn't a religion. Religion is what man created. With their churches, come here, pass the plate, live by these rules as I interpret them. That's religion. We have spirituality, which means we work with our gods ourselves. I'm not told what my gods are speaking to me. I will um, I will worship them myself. I will work with them myself. You know, whether it's Jesus, whether it's God, whether it's, you know, Poseidon or Yamaya.
The way I see it is that God and Goddess themselves, they don't see that to them that doesn't matter. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter how you worship. It doesn't matter what prayer you say. It doesn't matter, what church you belong to.
yeah,
When according to, Christianity, when what I believe is this: when and if the Christian God comes, he's coming to claim souls. He's not coming to claim churches.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not this church over that one. So I feel like there's so many people that they're focusing on judging others. Oh no, well you're going to hell because this, you're going to hell because of that, and pointing the finger at people where I feel they have it all wrong. I honestly feel that if Jesus walked the earth today, he would not be Christian.
yeah,
He would be a pagan
yeah,
because
yeah. He would be very
because
spiritual.
what he spoke about the religion, what he spoke about what it was that he came from and what it was that we all should be searching for was compassion,
Yeah,
love towards one another. He forgave a killer. He
yeah,
forgave a prostitute. So what does that tell you? God himself or herself, because I see God as him and her. I see
hmm,
God as a universal entity. What they call the Father, I to me is father and mother. It's
yes,
it's a universal it's a universal spirit that gives and takes life, and it's the air we breathe, it's the plant, it's nature, it's the universe, it's the sun, it's everything.
yes.
So that's the way I see it. So
Yeah,
this supreme
and it's
being,
funny because oops, I want to go to so Sherry Bug says, and I agree with her. One of my favorite verses of the Bible is when Jesus says, "There are many rooms in my Father's house." I think that maybe we all end up in the same place, just a different room. Yes, and that is exactly what Jesus was speaking to, is that, there's going to be many different ways to get
to get there.
there. Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Feel that man did invent religion, and the supreme being does not look at that for that. They
Mhm.
look at how you've lived your life. Have you been good? Have you been compassionate? Have you helped others? Have you been humane? Not judgmental.
Yeah.
Things like, I think
Mhm.
that's what gets us to that next level. The how we tolerate one another, how the acceptance we give to one another, forgiving one another when
Yeah.
we're hurt and stuff like that. All that marks up your soul. The way I like to see it is like your soul has like a checklist, and you have to go through all these, kind of like when you look at the chakra chart and the human body.
Yeah.
You have the seven chakras. I feel like you have this kind of like backbone type thing, or a ladder type thing,
Well,
where
like a
everything
report
is
card.
checked up. Yeah.
And that's and that's where I coined the phrase soul school. I do. I believe we reincarnate, and we've got to get to the next level on the soul level, um, before we ascend. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%. Um, I was going to ask you something. Let's switch gears a little bit, because it's funny. Um, I sometimes there's a few things I sometimes go back and forth with. So I had mentioned I'm a big, 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 big believer in karma. Um, right, and sometimes I do try to forgive, but sometimes forgiving isn't in the cards. Now I won't outright hex people, because I don't believe in that, but I do believe in reflecting bad spells and letting karma take that back. So what are your thoughts on karma and like hexing and stuff like that?
So, okay. So what, for example, what I would call hexing, maybe you don't call it hexing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with that. What I call hexing is anything that is defensive magic, not crosswork. Crosswork is more of maybe what you call a hex, where you want to harm somebody and fuck them over.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I consider hexing in my particular practice, in my personal path, is anything that is defensive magic, including reflections, send back to sender spells and stuff like
Yeah.
that. All of that, anything that's for protection, to me is hexing. But like I said, that's just my
Yeah.
thing now.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's karmic magic. We have a question.
yeah,
Marge Richer says, "What do you think of twin flames, karmic unions, and people who are meant for us?" Um, I'm a strong believer in that. I believe that I'm assuming like soulmates and stuff like that is what you're referring to. I'm a strong believer in that. I've told the story of how Maddie and I met. I had just been so frustrated about trying to meet the right person that I didn't think it would ever happen. And then, bloop, out of the blue, Maddie and I met. What do you think, Hexen?
I do. I also believe that some souls recognize each other from past lives, and
Mm,
you meet again as well, to where you know as souls you encounter each other again. Like I feel like when you're with that one, when you find that one person, your twin flame, and sometimes it might not even be a boyfriend or a wife or a husband. It could be a brother or a sister, or
yeah,
a connection you've made with another soul. I do feel also that you can come across them again in another life. Like
yeah,
you meet that person again. When it's a twin flame, I feel like those souls travel together. No matter where they go, they travel together.
yeah.
Like in different lifetimes, they come across each other again and again.
Yeah, that makes sense because I mean, I know in my life I have come across people, and I'd be like, I've known you from somewhere before, and it's very conceivable that it's a past life. Silver Willow says, I don't understand Christians who have no respect for nature and say that it's not alive. Oh, this is a big one I wanted to kind of get into. Because I believe also Jesus was very, again, sandal wearing. If Jesus were to walk down the street right now, he would, he would look like the quintessential flower child, hippie, wearing thorns on
I
his head,
think that
sandals.
I think that if Jesus, sorry to interrupt you, would be walking around and come across the Pope, he would just be like, "What the hell?"
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm convinced of that
Like
because there's a
you're here
passage.
to represent,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
yeah.
the
There's a
church,
passage. There's a
and
passage in the
you're
Bible.
here wearing these big robes with all this gold trimming and all these rich looking things, and like that's not what anything what the
Yeah.
religion speaks about. Like, you know, none of that. I don't feel like he would be so upset because and you had we had mentioned this when we spoke about it the other day. You call it hippo
It's a Christian.
Christian, hippo Christian.
It's a
You
Christian.
know, yes, and the way I see it is that to where
Yeah.
the religion is not what it was meant to be by
Yeah.
Jesus or the followers of Jesus and stuff. It's like, it's become something that it totally was never meant to be, if not the complete opposite. Because God is compassionate, he's forgiving, I say he obviously because that's the way, they say it, but you know, he or she, I like to think about it as a spiritual energy to where it's both male and female, and I feel like you don't have it doesn't matter what religion you follow, as long as you're trying to follow that spiritual path or
Mm.
that enlightenment that we're all searching for to be able to elevate our soul to
Yeah.
that level.
Well, you had mentioned, not to pick on Catholicism, but you had mentioned the Pope, or you look at any of these televangelists. There's passage in the Bible, and I don't know what it is because I don't have it memorized. But Jesus walked into a synagogue, and they were having a flea market, and he basically flipped out, tipped all the tables off, and says, "You're doing commerce in my Father's house." All of these churches that exist to make money. Oh yeah, I think I hate to say it, but the Catholic religion is so rich. I think Jesus would not recognize it. He would not recognize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean that is written, and it's funny how they can just ignore that passage. Like how the main part of it so corrupted it that it's shocking. And I think a lot of these people may be in. So I don't know if I believe you had mentioned Jesus coming again, and I know that's kind of written. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I
No,
believe
I don't. Okay, so
that he will come again, or if that
no,
life will go on until we all ascend to meet him. So I don't know. I think that with me, the verdict's out on that.
No, I don't mean like when Jesus comes again. I meant to where, if, for example, when the destruction of the world will happen, when God the Father Himself comes to to recruit those souls, the way I see it is He's coming to pick up souls. He's not coming to pick up any particular churches, to where He's not going to care what religion you followed in life. You're on a soul journey. He's going to look at your journey and what you've done in life,
Well, of course.
regardless of your race, regardless
Mhm.
of your gender, and regardless of your religion.
Yeah. Somewhere in Time Tower says Hexen. Oh my God, you are so right. He hated the Pharisees and said, oh my God, I'm going to butcher this. Sadducees or whatever in his day, and the Pope is another representation of that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But it's interesting. So let's switch gears a little bit. And I want to so we talked a little bit about the Christian side of things. Hold on, I haven't switched the camera to me. We talked a little bit about the Christian side of things. So now I want to talk pagan side. Now I know I've talked a little bit about, and I'm very new. Like I said, I'm very new to the deities. I just stumbled across which deities that I uphold towards, and it's for my ease, because my ADD brain, not to not to coin a phrase, not to steal Jen's term, but I do have adult ADHD. So I'm kind of working with the 12 Olympians, which represent a lot of the different elements. And you had mentioned Yemaya. So tell me a little bit or tell us a little bit more about some of your pagan side of things, the deities that you have been working with.
So, I've been working for Yemaya for a while already, about I would say 8 or 9 years. And like I said, she represents the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
She is a very loving, motherly type energy. Very compassionate, you know, and to honor her, you don't need to give her riches, or like anything you feel you could offer her, she'll take it as an offering. Like she doesn't ask for much, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with her for a very long time already. I recently started working with Hecate. Now, in my Wicca from the past, like when I was 14 and a teenager, I had worked with Hecate before, but I had never had like anything to represent her on my altar or anything like that. So I recently started working with Hecate, and through Hecate, I found Persephone
Okay.
and
So tell us a little bit about.
get
Hold on. Let's rewind. So what is Hecate the goddess of?
witchcraft. She is the Greek goddess of witchcraft. Now, it is said that Hecate existed before the Olympians.
Mm-hmm.
And Zeus gave Hecate dominion over, I believe, is the earth, the sky, and the sea. I think that's the way they describe it: the earth, the
Mm-hmm.
sky, and the sea. So she is a a goddess of the earth. She is a goddess of an ocean. She's the goddess of the universe, plus the goddess of witchcraft and protector of women and children, and
Yeah.
you know she's also like the guardian of all the misfits, you know, of the people that don't fit in and things
Yeah.
like that. That she's known for that. So um I was really big in Greek mythology when I was a
Mm-hmm.
teenager. Um,
Nice.
so I studied a lot of them, and also African mythology as well. So so it's funny because so Hecate in her history in Greek mythology, you don't know much about her. All
Mm-hmm.
they really know is that she existed prior to the time to the I'm sorry, prior to the Olympians,
Yep.
you know, and that because of where you know of who she was, Zeus gave her the dominion over the earth, sea, and sky.
Yeah.
And so she was honored by the other Olympians. Like they saw her more of someone who was above them,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
higher than them. So,
Interesting.
but you don't. The only other part that you know about is like when Hecate takes part in saving Persephone. She gets Demeter when Persephone gets taken by Hades. So through working with Hecate, I recently started working with Persephone and Hades as well, and
Mm-hmm.
um and it's something that I'm discovering. It's something that is new to my path. I've only been working with Hecate, like complete working with her for like since Samhain, I would say. I started getting into like learning more about Hecate and all that. And so it's this is something where I've established already my crystal part of my paganism
Mm-hmm.
and my African goddess Yamaya, she's my matron goddess, and I also have my native Caribbean altars that I work with and spirits and stuff like that that I work with.
Interesting. Yeah.
um the Persephone and Hades aspect with Hecate is something that is new in my path. So it's something that I haven't established yet. So I'm still working on it and getting to know how to work with their energies and stuff like that.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. That's cool. That's cool. Because yeah, that's like I'm like I said, I'm diving into the 12 Olympians. Um, so let me see. Any more questions in the comments? If anyone's got any questions for Hexen or myself, um, post them in the comments in caps, and I'll pass them along. Um, okay, so we're coming up. It's a little bit past 10, so we'll start wrapping up. Let's see if you have any closing. So Hexen, anything in closing that you want to add to this discussion?
Hmm.
I mean,
Just, I I I respect other religions, and I'm very, very tolerant, and though I was growing up, I was raised Catholic, I honestly, to me, it doesn't matter what God you worship or goddess you work with or what your religion is. I feel like the supreme being doesn't look for that. Like, they don't look at your gender, they don't look at your race, they don't look at, you know, they don't look at your religion. It's more of what level have you reached during this life? What have you done to lift up your soul for the next time around? So, I feel like everything else is not important. If it works for you, it works. And that to me, like Jen says, if it works for you, it works. That to me is what's important.
yeah.
No matter if you're a witch, if you're Wiccan, if you're pagan, if you're Christian, whatever it is your path is, because there's many different paths. I feel that that doesn't matter. Like, and if you're pagan and you're practicing witchcraft, some type of witchcraft or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
um I also want to include this part where it's all about intent. Don't feel like you need all these tools, all these expensive things
Mm-hmm.
to honor the energy you want to work with. If it works for you, it works. Whether you give them a cup of water as an offering, or like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And sometimes we use these fancy things because we like them, and we like to bring the give the look and have the feels and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you know the best tools are out in nature. You can find them through walks, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't need tools as long as you have yourself and you have your intent and you put that energy out there and you believe in it. That's all you need. you know so don't think you have to spend all this money to get a cute altar for a deity you want to work with. That deity knows. They
Yeah.
know
They
your
don't care about that.
they know your struggles. They know what you're going through. They want to make that connection with you, and that deity will take any offering you give them. In any little way you want to honor them, honor them. You don't need all these riches, because at the end of the day, it is not about that.
Yeah. So we have.
Having more materials and more things does not make you have the power or make things happen, or that's not gonna lift you up. Like, God doesn't look at that. Like, he doesn't. You could be rich and be nobody. You get me? Like, it's not about that at all. So just keep that in mind when you're starting. And look at thrift stores and things like that, where you don't need a lot.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot, and there's a lot of things outside in nature and things that
Mm-hmm.
people throw away, and things that thrift stores and stuff like that are things that are used. It just all depends on the way you look at it. You have to look at it with different eyes,
Yeah. Well,
because
well, it's interesting, and we have a question, and this is a good one. What books of the Bible do you think are true? So here's my take on the Bible. I
the
mean, think
older
I
parts
think
of
they're all true, but I think they're all written by man with agenda, except for 10 Commandments from Moses and the stuff that Jesus had said. And someone else had mentioned that original church, when Jesus was preaching to the apostles, was outside. It wasn't in a building, you know? Um, so so yeah, I mean, the the books of the Bible I don't think are made up. I just think that the person writing them, there's agendas there. There's things they're trying to address, and then you take that and you couple that with the translations over the years and how it's changed.
yep.
Um, I'm not going to say anything's untrue. So, what do you think, Hexen? What books of the Bible do you think are true?
I believe the older parts of the Bible are stick to the true. I feel like the anything else that's the New Testament has been written by man.
Interesting. Yeah, very
Feel
interesting.
like the Old Testament is more of the history of what happened. I see the
Yeah,
Bible as a history book. I see it more as a history book more than anything of where we come from. But it's definitely has been rewritten a billion and trillions of times by different people that have been
yeah,
in power. So to me, it's something that it's nowhere near to what the original Bible would be, or
yeah,
like
yeah.
the original book.
It's like Amethyst Ascension says, they are a history of people's perspectives. Just like any book that is written today, right? You take a book that's written today, that's our fact, billions of years or whatever, thousands of years from now, it's in history. It may not be true to that day, but it's true to this day, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's 10:15. I think unless we have any other questions and or anything, we're going to kind of wrap it up. Um, um, yeah. So this, I've spoken a little bit about my journey and stuff, and it's funny that because like Hexen and I, we talked, we've talked a few times about our spirituality, and it's just very similar. And I find that fascinating that and the thing is, we're all on these spiritual journeys. I'm wondering, I'm sure there's more people like us out there that are having these spiritual journeys. Um, you know, um, closing thoughts, Hexen? I think you nothing. That's
Sorry,
okay.
sorry, I blanked out. Yeah, I mean, just do you when it comes to your path. Don't. I mean, my path. There was so many things that held me back in the past to where sometimes the way I see it is like sometimes if you second guess yourself, you never get anything done.
Yeah, awesome.
So no, don't second guess yourself. If you want to start somewhere, start somewhere. If the only way you're gonna learn is through trial and error. So how do you know what works for you if you haven't tried something different?
Yeah,
Um, in my study, like I say, I've always taken what works for me, and whatever doesn't work for me, I just tweak it or make it my own, and I wing it. And sometimes it's about that. The intention is the most thing that matters. You don't need all the fancy tools or anything. They're just there for looks, but it's like, oh, you need a red candle, a blue candle, and a green candle for your next spell, but you don't have that, and you have three white candles. Use the three white candles. That really doesn't come like that. Really doesn't matter. It doesn't come to
yes,
like, affect more than your intention. Yes, if you
yeah,
have the green candle, okay, use the green candle, but it's not gonna make a difference. Your intention is what makes the difference. It is
yeah,
you that makes that difference.
yeah,
Regardless of what materials you use.
yes. Like I'm big into candle magic. And these are the candles I use. They're these Hanukkah, and they are multicolored. But yeah, I don't. If I'm casting a spell, um, it's it's more of intent. I will carve my intention in the candle. I will dress it. I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to the color because I think it's the intention, the energies that I am putting into the candle as I do the spell. Um, and and that's the important part is the intention. I do hold myself, and this is just a me thing. That's why I use these Hanukkah candles. When I do a candle magic, I like my candle from the time I light it to burn completely out. I think I'm just not one. I don't like to blow out and keep going or leave candles burning for days. But
Me too.
it's a to each their own. Um,
Me too.
so,
I like to sit there and watch the candle burn out
yeah,
because, like, I like to see the spell complete and for it to move on and out into the universe.
Awesome. Some closing stuff from the comments. Somewhere in time says, Dave and Hexen, I enjoyed this. Simon says this was a really thought-provoking chat. A lot of good feedbacks. This was definitely a really good,
awesome,
really good talk. So in closing, guys, don't forget, like and subscribe. And check out the Facebook group. It's called Wizard's Tower, all one word. Also, like and subscribe to Hexen's group. What's your group name? Your channel.
Yes, I started a new page on Facebook, guys, because it is harder for us that are under 1K subscribers on YouTube to go live now. And all of my videos were live. I did a new Facebook page called The Bone Whisperer's Cauldron. Let me type it actually on the... Oh, no, I can't because I'm not on YouTube through my phone.
I can type it. Spell it out.
Okay, so The Bone Whisperer.
All one word?
Yeah.
The Bone Whisperer?
Whisperer is one word. Bone Whisperer is one word. So you're going to put Bone Whisperer. You're going to add an S.
The Bone Whispers. Yeah, it's not working. You know what I'll do? I will put a link in the description. I'll edit this, and I'll put these links in the description. I'll have you send it to me.
So it's the Bone Whisperer's Cauldron. It's a new book, a new page I did on Facebook. You guys can follow me there. I'll probably start doing some lives there as well. And eventually that's going to be my YouTube channel's name as well, the Bone Whisperer's Cauldron. Awesome. Cassie came up with it, which is, what's Cassie's channel's name? Cascade of Moon. Cascade of Moon.
Yes. Cascade of Moon.
Cascade of Moon. So Cassie came up with the Bone Whisperer. She's like, "Oh, Hexen, she's the Bone Whisperer," and I thought it's kind of cool because you guys know I do bone reading. So, I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" So I came up with the whole Bone Whisperer's Cauldron, and that eventually is gonna be my channel's name.
Cool. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. This was a really good, really fun topic. Again, like and subscribe. All of our channels. Let's. I think Marge kind of typed it in there, but I'm going to put it in the comments in the description. Thanks, guys. Don't forget, I think Simon has Jennifer Ball on later on.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yes, it's gonna be a good one. That's 4:00 his time, 11:00 our time, Eastern US time. So don't forget to check that out. And yeah, thank you. Sorry, didn't do popcorn. Maddie wasn't feeling up the popcorn party. But and I didn't have a guest, so I'm gonna definitely make sure I have a guest for next weekend. So look for that. And Wednesday night, I'll see you guys Wednesday night readings. Oh, another thing is, look for some pop-up lives, possibly later today or tomorrow. We're gonna go. Maddie and I are spending the night in Newport, and if the weather is good, I'm going to be going to some really cool places, and I'll do a pop-up live, one being Fort Weatherall. But that's weather permitting because it's nasty and rainy out here, as usual. Thanks, everybody. Love you all.
Bye.
And say bye, Hexen.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.